We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us on this Monday. Open phones for politics, presidential race. If you want to join us, 737-7587. Just one convention after another. And, you know, I think we'd be remiss not to comment on some big change when you talk about the media. And wondering whether or not you'll see any change, perhaps, over at Fox News. You know, Roger Ailes, who for the past 2 decades, really single-handedly in large measure, has been responsible for the incredible growth of that network. And the style of news that they deliver and the way they deliver it is out. Getting, I think, at least a $40 million golden parachute, so shed no tears. But I think this is a man who was well off anyway, who enjoyed his position, and of course was forced out in light of some sexual harassment issues being brought up and charged against him. And so he, you know, leaving under those circumstances. I just didn't know if you had an opinion on whether there will be changes at Fox.
You know, the rumors are that Murdoch's sons, who are pretty much taking over his empire, have sort of been looking for an excuse. You know, one would expect, you know, we had this discussion earlier about how you conduct political polling. One would suspect that what worked 30 years ago may not be working as well today. And I think it's quite possible that there will be some new approaches in Fox.
I wonder, but does that mean, I think we know that Roger Ailes, his thought was, he felt that much of the mainstream media was biased liberal. And so the Fox, I think most people would agree, skewed conservative. And so the question is, and that certainly worked, okay? I mean, the numbers and the popularity, I don't know what the network's numbers are like, if they've suffered in any way, I don't know that. But do you think it may be where they move more toward the middle as opposed to one side or the other? Or do you think they'll keep the same?
Well, maybe different formats, maybe a little bit more, you know, on the ground. I'm just not sure where it will go.
Okay. Well, that's a significant change for the head who had the vision of everything, and we'll see how things change as Fox News rolls along without the man who really had a lot to do with the growth over the last 2 decades. I'm sorry, was it on 2, Irene? Hi, Irene. Good morning. Go ahead, Irene.
And Nick, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Fine. My opinion about Hillary Clinton, she's not running for the money. She's running for power so she can stay in control. That's all I got to say.
All right. Thank you. Well, being president's a lot about having power, I suppose, right?
Well, and Trump for sure can't be running for the money. I mean, he can barely get any more. So, I think, you know, power is... that's the coin of politics.
Oh, yeah. If you're running for president, and I can't even imagine what it's like. The pressure, the scrutiny, the attacks, everything involved at that level. And we see it here at the local level on some state house race or even a city council race, how crazy it gets. At that level, you certainly have to have an ego, and you certainly have to be someone. I don't think either Trump or Hillary are just like power-hungry mad, but yeah, they know there's a lot of power that comes with what they're going to run for.
It takes power to accomplish things.
Yes.
And if you have, I mean, there's nothing wrong. Power in and of itself is not inherently wrong. It's the use to which one makes it. And I think that the more important question is, to what ends would Clinton and or Trump use the power?
Right. Let's talk, just if we will, about really what types of things are at stake. What will end up on the doorstep of the new president when they take office. All right. One of the things you hear time and again is, well, they're going to be nominating at least one right off the bat Supreme Court nominee.
They are, and you know, typically it's about every 2.5 years you get an appointment. So you could guess that you'd probably have at least 1 or 2 others.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, one of the fascinating things with if Hillary is elected is to find out whether she sticks with the relatively moderate candidate that Obama has put forward, or whether she says, no, now's my chance to appeal to, you know, now's my chance to get Elizabeth Warren on the court.
Maybe go someone different, right? Which you could have the Republicans, if it came to that, depending on how the races end up in Congress, say, boy, we should have taken Obama's choice.
Absolutely.
Because there could be someone more liberal. On the other hand, if Donald Trump gets in there, he'll get to choose his own. The other questions, if a Republican gets in, Donald Trump, they actually move forward trying to repeal Obamacare? I mean, is that a question?
I think they will move forward. I don't know precisely what the alternative will be, and I'm not sure that Trump knows at this point.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, for those of us who are concerned about either candidate, many of us are rather grateful that we have separation of powers. Whoever it is, we're not electing a dictator. There will be, we hope, you know, some mechanisms in place that it won't simply be their word.
Well, I'll say this, with the two candidates, you're absolutely right. And I think every time a president gets in, they think they've got this, you know, endorsement, they're ready to roll, and then they run smack into a wall called Congress.
Right.
And I think Hillary, obviously, because she's been around a long time, kind of probably recognizes that more. If Donald Trump wins, I will be very intrigued to watch how he handles it when he's been in charge of running his business and his word goes. And Congress is not going to play ball that way.
And that takes us back to the vice presidential candidates.
Yeah.
Pence is chosen largely because of his experience in Washington.
Right.
And the same is true of Kaine. They're both known for being able to sort of work across the aisle.
Yeah, Pence an insider, Donald Trump an outsider. Again, a wise choice.
Yes.
Let's go next to Deborah. Hi, Deborah. Are you there, Deborah? I think we just lost her. I'm sorry. If we cut her off, she can call back and I'll take her right back. But we just lost Deborah on that. So typically, the debates begin when? Will it be? I mean, I know there are times. I guess there may not be any, but you expect there will be.
I mean, generally, when you have an incumbent, they have far less reason to have a debate than others because it makes their challenger appear to be their equal. And some people think, you know, this is partly what happened in 1960. You didn't have an incumbent, but you had an incumbent vice president. And when you put Nixon up against Kennedy, they look relatively equal. And so it actually helped Kennedy more than it did Nixon, who was supposed to be the debater.
Yeah, you see why incumbents don't always like to, but they,
exactly.
you know.
But you know, I mean, I think
I'm sure they're both chomping at the bit.
Oh, absolutely.
To go for this.
Although, you know, some of us have debate fatigue still from the primary season.
You do, but boy, I'll tell you what. Especially, you know, those debates in the Republican Party, they were, to me, entertaining to watch. Yeah,
there were too many candidates to make it focused enough.
Yeah, that's true.
It wasn't Lincoln Douglas.
So it was superficial and name calling, and I saw things said in a debate that I had never seen before, and I enjoyed watching some of it because I just never seen it. Now I'm not sure how presidential it all was, but boy, I wonder it'll be a little different probably between just the two of them, as you said.
I think it would.
More
you know, in the vice presidential debates, have sometimes been pretty consequential as well.
The two of them going on. Any expectation from you on what we might see in the Democratic? If you were to predict, you know, going into the Republican, we thought there might be some unusual things happening. There may be protests. There's going to be protests at this one.
Sure.
But the issue with some of the speeches and who talked and how things played out, do you think we'll have some of the same in the Democratic?
I think we'll probably have more street demonstrations.
Okay.
And I think part of it, again, is this timing of the WikiLeaks thing right before, you know, literally the day before the convention
And the demonstrations,
begins.
then you think by Bernie Sanders people, others beyond that?
But convention itself, I mean, fortunately or not, the Clintons don't have as many progeny as the Trumps, so I don't think we're going to have, you know, unless they trot out Roger or something.
Sure, exactly. Not as many. I would like to see that. Well, no, and the other part of it is certainly Hillary's been through this before with her husband. Okay,
she has.
And so you could maybe understand why things maybe didn't go perfectly smoothly during the Republican, because you had Donald Trump, an outsider, coming in and doing this for the first time, and the way it played out, I think maybe we'll see it being organized in a different way with the Democrats, whatever that means one way or the other.
I think you'll see more Hollywood stars than less maybe sort of the kind of stars that you saw on the Republican, although, you know, Duck Dynasty, that's one of the few times I've actually watched it was at the Republican convention. So.
And you make a really good point, by the way. Just as in the Republican with the Democrat, if you want to see all the speakers, kind of just an uncut version, go to C-SPAN. I think there may be another couple networks that stayed on it the whole time, as opposed to the others that just hit the high-profile speakers and then couch it around commentary. And I enjoy commentary as long as it's fair and it's spun in a certain way or whatever. They talk to the different players from each side.
Sure.
But sometimes it's just nice to watch it clean, like you're there.
It is.
Like you're there. Today, of course, the two big speakers will be Bernie Sanders and First Lady Michelle Obama, and we'll see how things play out. Professor, as always, it's just an interesting conversation.
It sure
Political
is.
season is something else,
It's
you know, and
what we dream of.
and there's so much more, as you say, besides just the presidential race. Why, whether you just don't care for either of these candidates, still get out and vote, because there's other races
Absolutely.
you want to be involved with.
Yes.
Sir, thank you for your time.
You're
we'll
welcome.
see you again down the road. You know we will. We'll
Sounds
take a
good.
break. I'll be back, wrap things up. Programming note about tomorrow right after this.